Hello everyone, Just Podcast TV is here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on new content.
Episode 328. Blow your mind. According to fan research, regular small passenger planes, which weigh 4 to 5 tons, take off at 175 to 200 miles per hour. A large passenger plane with a weight of 8 or 9 tons would take off at a speed of 300 miles per hour. With this as the foundation, the able to let you fly that Zach mentioned definitely did not mean that they would take off at a speed of 175 to 200 miles per hour. Because this was too common, many luxury cars could do it, not to mention Ferrari, Lamborghini, and other sports cars. But sports cars that were more than 300 miles per hour, although there were also some, there weren't many. Zach actually wanted to customize a version of this hydrogen energy car for Sander. This made Sander extremely excited. While he was excited, he also told Zach some things about the adjustment of the car. However, later on, he found that Zach seemed to know as much as he did. In some aspects, it even gave him a refreshing feeling. That kind of broad vision was something that Sander had never possessed. He was surprised to find that Zach also knew how to race, and he was an expert who did not lose to him. Therefore, under the investigation of this competitive spirit, he could not help but ask Zach to fight. Zach smiled politely and refused. "No, I will not compete with you. I will not compete with you for the championship." "Then how embarrassed would you be?" Sander laughed loudly. However, his competitive spirit was getting stronger and stronger. It was impossible for him not to be determined. With the intention of playing around, Zach cleared out the people in the driving test field. Once the door was closed, in the racetrack, there were only 2 of them left. No one knew what the result would be. They could only hear the booming sounds in the testing field, and in the end, they only found out that the 2 of them had come out of the testing field with their arms around each other's shoulders. It was so hot, as if they were old friends, and they had not seen each other for many years. It was especially warm. Excluding the car test site, Zach talked about the movie with Sander while they were eating in the hotel of the QZ group. "I've seen all the movies you directed, it's great. So, when you're directing a movie again, you should consider my dream film and television company." "Sure, I've also watched Old Watson before. Furthermore, I've specifically studied it. It can be said that both the filming technique and the storyline were excellent, allowing me to gain a lot from the director's point of view. Therefore, I have a very good impression of your company. If I have any new ideas in the future, I will definitely look for you to cooperate with me as soon as possible." From the morning to the afternoon, Zach and Sander became good friends, and they even discussed business outside of the car. As the witness who witnessed the whole thing, Luna seemed very depressed. She was obviously one of the main characters. She represented the QZ group, and Sander was the spokesperson for the new car, the SUV. However, after the press conference, Sander, the spokesperson, didn't care about the SUV anymore. He directly rushed to Wind Chaser. He even got into a movie with Zach and came to a new cooperation agreement. However, thinking about Wind Chaser, which was a subsidiary brand of QZ Group, this matter did not matter. In any case, the meat was rotten in the pot, so he didn't go anywhere else. After watching Sander leave with Zach's eyes, Luna curiously asked about the competition in the driving test field. "Did you win or lose?" Zach asked with a smile. "Then do you want me to win or lose?" Luna replied without hesitation. "I hope you lose." Zach was more surprised. "Why?" Luna said, "Because you are too capable. You are very strong in all aspects, so you cannot drive too well. You need to have a weakness." Zach laughed loudly. "All right then, I'll listen to you. I lost." "Hey, why are you so irresponsible? Tell me the truth. Did you win or lose?" At the same time, Sander sat in the back of the car and gently rubbed his trembling right leg. He had won in the testing field just now, but the victory was a little fierce. The two of them were about the same from the start to the halfway mark, but Zach seemed to have suddenly changed. Sander even felt that the car next to him seemed to have caught on fire and exploded with an unparalleled momentum. All kinds of drifts and turns were no worse than his, and many of his movements were especially precise. Even if it was calculated using a computer, it was still the best curve. There was no fault at all. All of this, other than taking a long time to raise a car, was simply impossible to have. This also meant that Zach had once loved to play with cars. A dignified champion of the race was actually going to lose to a person who had once loved to play with cars. This made Sander feel ashamed. So he was a little impatient. He took the last bend and used the non-braking inertial drift. However, because of his anxious attitude, he neglected an important factor. It was a mass-produced car, not a racing car. The tires of racing cars were specifically made, so running these 2 laps was naturally not a problem. However, mass-produced cars were different. Although the tires could still run, the friction when drifting had reduced significantly. This also made Sander's estimation wrong. When he fiercely turned the steering wheel to adjust the angle, the left tire of the car was raised. Raising the steering wheel meant that the vehicle would pour down, especially when it was at a high speed. The wind would completely lift the car up until the car flipped over. Then, under the effect of inertia, the car would roll a few times. As for Sander, if he lost 2 legs and a head, that would be fate. However, at that critical moment, Zach actually hit the brakes and deliberately rubbed the rear of the car against the front of his car. The force was not strong enough to cause Zach's car to flip sideways, but it also hit Sander's car back just in time. Therefore, when they crossed the finish line, Sander took the lead and rushed past the finish line first, while Zach's car followed closely behind. In a competition between 2 people, the second place naturally did not have any glory to speak of. However, Zach was still smiling and did not care about the result at all. He did not even mention anything about the intentional collision. This made Sander very grateful. Not only had Zach saved his life, he had also kept silent about this matter. This had given him face. However, at this moment, Sander felt a lingering fear in his heart in the car. If Zach had not deliberately bumped into him before, he would not have been able to tell whether he was sitting in the car here or riding a crane in the west. After a while, his trembling right leg finally stabilized. Fear still lingered in his heart. The press conference was held. The news of wind chasing was everything on the internet. Even solid hydrogen was being transported to the shop that was cooperating with QZ nationwide. Everything was ready, and the stockpile was getting bigger and bigger. Once they had reached a certain number of cars, they would be able to sell them in the market. The prep price was also ready. The low-cost version started at $900,000, and the top price was $150,000. For now, this price was compatible with the high-end price of a domestic vehicle. In the words of netizens, the price was not very close to the people. It was only good to start at $70,000. There were also people who said that domestic cars could only start at $30,000. But the cost was there, including the research and development costs. The workers' salaries were there, and the profits of the 4S shop were there too. It was true that Zach was building a car, but he was not sending a car. The people he liked could naturally afford it. Even if the people he disliked were to start at $40,000, he would still add $30,000 to buy a joint venture car. Then, he would drive proudly on the street, feeling that he had suddenly become a lot taller. Putting aside the power to talk about cars, he was playing hooligan. Putting aside the configuration and talking about cars, he was also playing hooligan. Therefore, rational netizens thought that the price of this car was not high at $150,000. In fact, Zach's price was indeed not high. But even so, An accident still happened, but it was not because of the price. Episode 329, Lose Your Mind. On this day, Zach was discussing the date of Windchaser's listing with Luna in the office. All of a sudden, Luna's secretary barged in without knocking on the door. Her face was full of panic. This secretary should be a little older than him and should not be so flustered. But the secretary's following words shocked Luna. Director Luna, something big has happened. The people from the Automotive Association are here, and Shamir is here personally, the secretary said. The Automotive Association was a chamber of commerce created by the global automotive companies. Shamir, on the other hand, was the person in charge of the International Automotive Association. Zach had heard of this person before. He was also a big shot in the automotive industry. In short, he had a lot of authority in the automotive industry. But now, this big shot had brought a team to QZ Group for what? Zach didn't even need to think about it. He must have come for Windchaser's car. As expected, the secretary said, "When we just got to the meeting room, they told the chairman that Windchaser is not allowed to be listed on the market, and the hydrogen power system is not allowed to be listed on its own. They didn't approve it." They didn't approve it. It sounded very domineering and arrogant. "I didn't sell it at your house. Why didn't you approve it?" But the theory was such a theory, but the reality was not so. If the Automotive Association doesn't agree, the QZ ignores them like a fart, then the consequences are quite serious. What did it mean to be listed independently? For example, Windchaser. If it was to be listed, it meant that it was going to be listed independently. However, other countries had a car with the same hydraulic energy system on the market, so it was not listed on the market on its own. To put it bluntly, the hydrogen power system was too powerful. Bulwark was a threat to all the other automotive industries, so everyone followed and surrounded it. Luna was very angry and suddenly slapped the table. "Shameless! Simply shameless to the extreme!" Luna then looked at Zach. "Then what should we do now?" After she asked that, she felt a little embarrassed. In the past, it was others who asked her what to do, but now it was her who asked Zach what to do. Was this habit of relying on him because she acknowledged Zach in her heart, or was it because of Zach's previous actions that made her submit to him? While Luna was letting her imagination run wild, Zach stood up. "Let's go and take a look first. We have to know what they want, right?" Luna also stood up and followed Zach out of the office. She muttered as she walked, "What can they want? Of course, it's because they want our technology. It's just the way to invest, or invest is different." Zach smiled. "Why do I feel like they don't seem to be here to do business?" Luna did not understand what he meant, but Zach did not say anything else. He just walked to the conference room with Luna's company. As soon as he arrived at the door of the meeting room, Zach heard the sound of someone hitting the table. Immediately, Carson's anger erupted. "Impossible! This is absolutely impossible! There is no such thing as this in the world!" Upon hearing this, Zach had an idea in his heart. His worries had come true. Shamir really did not have the face to come here. Simply put, he was shameless. After entering the meeting room, Carson quickly came in front of Zach, his face full of anger. "Director Zach, this man is too shameless. Do you know what he said? He asked us to share the hydrogen energy system for free." While Carson was talking to Zach, Luna, who was standing beside him, widened her eyes. "He didn't take any medicine when he went out, did he? If he doesn't, I'll get someone to buy some for him at the pharmacy. Free sharing of technology? Have you lost your mind?" Episode 330. A truly fierce man. Shamir was in his 60s. His hair was white, which was why the industry called him the white-headed man. Mr. Shamir, I am the chairman of the Dream Group. I have 70% profit and 100% technical rights to the wind-chasing brand. So you don't need to talk to others, and you don't need to threaten QZ Group. If you have anything to talk about, just talk to me. Zach looked at Shamir and said, "But I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you because I don't like you. I have the urge to vomit when I see you, so I won't talk to you. If you want to pressure QZ, feel free to do as you wish. I can't make a deal with QZ. The Windchaser brand will be removed from QZ, and I will operate independently. This is not a problem, but if you want my technology, sorry, I won't give you a single hair. If anyone isn't happy about it, you can go against me. You're welcome to go against me." Zach entered the arena and left in less than 2 minutes. Then he left with Carson. At this moment, not to mention Shamir and the others, even Mac and Luna, were stunned. Zach was really good at this. He didn't want to play with QZ anymore. This way, there would be no reason for them to threaten QZ. However, Luna and Mac's eyes lit up when they looked at each other. If we don't cooperate, we can rent. The production line and the 4S shops were rented out in the form of cooperation. There was no way to hire anyone. Luna couldn't help but laugh when she thought of this. When it came to cheating, how could Shamir compare to Zach? This shameless fellow. But the matter was far from that simple. Before they even left the office door, Shamir opened his mouth. "Mr. Marquez, of course, you can continue to produce and sell. This is your freedom. But for the suspension of cooperation between the Automaton Union and QZ, it is also our freedom. As far as I know, you still have a deep relationship with the brand QZ. So even if you use all kinds of tricks, as long as you don't share the hydrogen power system, we will attack QZ. I think you know what QZ will encounter." Threatening was still a brazen and shameless threat, not even caring about face, not even needing to pretend to be righteous. It was probably the same as saying, "I'm just that shameless. What can you do to me?" At this time, Mac was very angry. As the leader of QZ, he had to stand up for him. "Mr. Shamir, please don't forget that this is America." Shamir took out a cigar, cut his hair, and lit it with a special lighter. He took a deep breath and spat it out from his nose. "In theory, we have duties and obligations to maintain the balance of technology. So we only need the technology of the hydrogen power system. This technology must be handed over to us, and then we can make this technology sharing announcement." Mac was very angry, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. "Shamir, are you threatening us?" Shamir said casually, "You can interpret it that way, but I am not responsible for what I have said." Mac was still talking to Shamir. Zach waved his hand and signaled Donnie to come over. When Donnie got closer, Zach told him, "Taking the running man and the GTR with you. The three of you go to Donovan's side and protect Dr. Dusty and his team, especially the key technical staff. You have to protect them for 24 hours a day." Zach had already sent people to protect Dr. Dusty's daily life. They were all from Donovan's security company. But now, it is not possible. If there were people with guns, Donovan's security company would not be able to do it. If Donnie and the other two went over, the protection would be greatly enhanced. Even Zach had thought about it. If necessary, he would call Mason and send 100 people to protect Dr. Dusty and the others.